this challenge, I'll create a sprite with a couple clone sprites that interactively fly away from the creating sprite. It's a simple start that could be expanded into something like fireworks. I'll delete the cat, delete, new sprite, holiday, star 1. I want the sprite in the center. Go to 0, 0. When the green flag is clicked on, good. I'll center it now. I'll use a couple lists to let each sprite know how to change its XY position each time it moves. I'll want each sprite, the creating sprite, and the clones to have a unique index. The creating sprite will use the list index 1, and the unique ID for each clone will be 2 or more. I'll create the lists delta x and delta y. Delta means change in x and change in y. I'll go to Data, make a list, delta x for all sprites. Okay. I'll move this over, initialize it, delete, all, add, duplicate, duplicate. For delta x, I want sprite 1, which will be the creating sprite, to stay in the center. Its x position won't change, it'll be 0. The first clone sprite will change x in a positive 3, and y, it'll move to the upper right. The second clone, index number 3, will change its x position by -3, will move down to the left. I'll create delta y now, make a list, delta y, global, bring it over. I'll copy this code, change delta x to delta y. Now both lists are initialized. I'll make a procedure block to initialize the lists. More blocks. Make a block. I'll call it initialize delta lists. Okay. Do that at initialization. Initialize the list. Put this up over here. Try this now. Stop. Run. Lists are initialized. Shrink the monitors, move them down a little bit. That's good. Each sprite will have a unique index value into these lists. The creating sprite will have index 1. The first clone will have index 2. The second clone will have index 3. I'll stop the program and create the clone sprites now. Control, create clone of myself. Each sprite needs to have its own index into the lists. Data, make a variable, call it my index for this sprite only. Okay. Now each sprite has its own index. I'll set the creating sprite's my index to 1. The creating sprite needs to tell each clone its unique index value. Make a variable, call it new clone index. Okay. Bring the monitor down. It's global so all the sprites can see it. I want to set the variable. New clone index. First clone should have the index of 2. The first clone has the second x and y numbers. The creating clone has the first x and y numbers. I'll create 2 clones. I might in the future want to create a lot more, so I'll use a loop. Control, repeat, repeat 2 times. I'll need new clone index to be increased after each one, so each clone gets a unique number. Data, change, new clone index by 1. Now I need to initialize the clones. Control, when I start as a clone, I want to set the clone's index to new clone index. Data, set my index to new clone index. I have a problem though. There's a race condition between the creating sprite and the new clone sprites. I need to be sure the clone gets the new clone index value before the creating sprite changes it by 1. I've gone into more detail on this in an earlier challenge. For For this challenge, I'll say the problem is easily avoided having the creating sprite wait for the clone sprite to let it know it's safe to create the next sprite. I'll use a variable to coordinate between the two sprites, make a variable. I'll call it finished initializing, question mark, global, okay. Bring it down. I want to set finish initializing to an n before I create the sprite. Finished initializing, n for no. Then I need to wait until the clone has been created. Control, wait until. I need to wait until finish initializing is a y. Operators equal y data finished initializing. Now what will happen? New clone index is set to 2. Finished initializing is an n. The clone's created. This creating sprite is now waiting for finished initializing to be changed to a y. When it is, it'll advance to creating the next sprite. If the clone does not set finished initializing, the creating sprite will be stuck right here. Set finished initializing to a y. When the clone sets finished initializing to a y, the creating sprite can continue execution. I'll try it now. Stop. Green flag. Notice that new clone index is 4. It started at 2. 2 clones made would add 1 a couple times and leave it at 4. Also notice that finished initializing is a y for the last clone. Were the clones created? Where are they? They're with the creating sprite. No more sprites. Now I want to make the clones move. I want them to move when they're first created and each time the U key is pressed. U for update. I'll make a new procedure block. More blocks. Make a block. I'll call it update. Okay. I want to update when the clone is created. I'll add it in when I start as a clone. Here's the update procedure. I want it to move. I'll go to motion. Go to XY. I want the X and Y positions to be updated by the sprite's delta X and delta Y values. I'll go to operators, plus. I need the current X position, motion, scroll down, X position. Now I need the sprite's change in X position, its delta X value. Go to data, get item. What index should each clone use to get the delta X value? It should use my index. My index is 1 for the creating sprite, 2 for the first clone, and 3 for the second clone. Now when update is called, the X position will be changed by adding the delta X value for each sprite. For the creating sprite, my index is 1, 0 is added, no change. For the first clone, my index is 2, 3 is added. For the second clone, my index is 3, negative 3 is added. The first clone is going to move to the upper right, and the second clone is going to move to the lower left. I need to do the same thing for the Y position. Duplicate. Change delta X to delta Y. I'll right-click. I can't change X position, but I can delete it. Get Y position. Scroll down. Y position. Add it into the goto. I can show the updates now if I add the handler for when the U key is pressed. I'll go to Events, When key pressed, when the U key is pressed, have it call update. Duplicate and remove this. I'll run the program now, make sure it's stopped, clones are gone. I can remove the variables from the stage, go to Data, uncheck, uncheck. Interesting, showing but unchecked. How about hide the variable? Didn't work. Again, nothing. What if I select the sprite? Now if I hide the variable, now it's gone. It can be a little challenging removing the monitors from the stage when sprites have clones. Be certain the sprite is selected when you try to remove the monitor. I'll leave the lists on the stage for now. ready to run the program. Already stopped. Green flag. I'll press the U key several times to get updates. You can see the sprites moving. You can also see accesses on the lists. Watch the indexes light up. These monitors are showing accesses to items in the lists. All the clones are changing. That's because all the clones have a handler for when the U key is pressed. I can make the sprites change their size. I'll have the middle sprite get larger and the clones get smaller. Instead of making another list for the size changes, I'll use an if-else. Control, if-else. How can update tell whether it's updating the creating sprite in the center or the clone sprites moving away? They each have a unique myIndex value. When myIndex is greater than 1, it's a clone. Easy enough. Operators. Greater than 1. When myIndex is greater than 1, it's a clone. I'll go to looks, get change size. I want the clone sprites to get smaller as they go away from the center. Have them change by -2. Duplicate. I'll have the creating sprite in the center get a little bit larger. I'll make it 4. A little hard to see. I'll move these up a little bit. That's better. I'm changing sizes here, so it'll be good to make sure my size is 100% at the beginning. Change 90 to 100. Now I'm running out of room a little bit. I'll do that. I also want the clones to disappear when they hit the edge of the stage. I'll go to Control, If touching the edge of the stage, go to Sensing, Touching, Edge. If it's touching the edge of the stage, I'll delete the sprite. Go to Control, delete this clone. I can only delete the clones. I'll put it in the if part for clones after the size is changed. Can't see all of update now. Move this, bring this up, move that down. I'll try running it now. Stop, green flag. Okay, press the U key. The middle creating sprite's getting larger and the clones are getting smaller. I'll keep pressing the up key, see that they disappear when they hit the edge of the stage. Smalls are going to get, and gone. I'll stop the program now. One last part to this challenge. What would happen if update is called from the when sprite is clicked handler? Go to events. When this sprite clicked, I'll make a little room. If update is called from here, what will happen to all the sprites? Make sure it's stopped. Start. Press the U key some. What's going to happen to all the sprites when I click on one of the stars? Time's up. As you can see, only the sprite that's clicked on is updated. This one gets larger, and this one gets smaller. It only affects the sprite that's being clicked on. Makes sense since the other sprites are not clicked on. I'm finished with this challenge. I encourage you to play with the example and get comfortable with coordinating the creation of clones and to be comfortable with accessing lists. Try changing the program. Try adding more clones moving in different directions. Try adding new effects. Try changing the program to automatically move instead of using the U key. Try changing the program so the delta X and Y values are randomly selected in a range. But most of all, have fun with the program.